It is time to expand minds through movies, TV, sports, and flicks. It is time to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. It is time for the Captain Talks Flicks.
The Captain Talk Flicks.
Welcome to the Captain Talks Flicks podcast. I'm your host, the Captain Cortez, aka Mr. Love, and this is where we talk flicks. And ladies and gentlemen, this past week, I went back to the wilderness of mirrors, to the great game, to the world of espionage. I saw the show called CIA. I actually went to Langley, hung out, chilled. I really did. So we're gonna get into that. But first, couple things. I want to give a big shout out to Boston. Got some plays in Boston this past week. Gracias, gratitude, todo. I have seen so many movies set in Boston. I just want to go there. It looks like a beautiful, beautiful place to go. So one of these days, I'm gonna have to go over to Boston, chill out, hang out, see the sights, and just relax. Maybe do a podcast. So I appreciate you listening. Thanks a lot. Gracias, gratitude. And additionally, this episode is brought to you by the song called Victors by King Cortez and Queen Cortez. It's a rap track that's just about being victorious, having victory, being victors over the problems and challenges that appear in our life, whether it's sports or family or job or any kind of adversity that you encounter and you are a victor over it. That's what this song is about. It's about overcoming it or going through it. Because here at the podcast, we're rooting for it. So if you want to hear the song called Victors, I'll put them below. Check it out now. Let's go to the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this week's episode of CIA, magnificent. Now, they have their little problem of the week this week, where they have to catch a terrorist. The last few shows, it's been kind of catching, people acting up, doing terrorist stuff. And that's kind of like the villain of the week. But additionally, on the path to get the villain, a lot of interesting topics have been, talked about. So what I want to do this episode is get into a couple of those things. Couple of the things I'm going to talk about, things I've thought about for a long time after going to this rabbit hole. And they kind of brought it up in the show. So we'll go over a couple of things first of all. So in the episode, an American is kidnapped as a young age by an terrorist organization overseas. And then years later, he appears back in the States, doing, bad stuff. So our heroes, Colin and Bill and the rest of the team, foil that plot and they get this young man back. Can't remember what his name is, but they get him back. So they get him back, and when they're talking to him, trying to find out, more information about the plot, see exactly what's happening. And now in this conversation, they tell him, he's been brainwashed, and this and that, which is true because these groups do try to infuse their belief system on the individuals that they got over there like that. Yeah. But in that conversation, the American dude brings up the fact that, well, you guys, CIA, do the same thing. You guys do this. You have people betray their country, and spy on them, and they're breaking their laws. Now, what he said is actual factual. Now, if you go to any book or hear podcast or just go down a rabbit hole of espionage, this is essentially what our organization is trying to ask them to do. So if you're asking an individual overseas in any other country to spy for America, the CIA, NSA, DIA, whatever A you're talking about, they're asking them to betray their country. This is facts, right? And he brings it up. He says, well, you guys are bad. Okay. Now, the thing is, every country's doing this. Okay. Now, is it morally right? I don't know. I'm not a judge of morality, and it's not my place to say that. But what we do in America, everybody else is doing it. Every country that has an intelligence organization structure like ours is doing the exact same thing. They come over here and they try to get Americans to do the exact same thing that we're doing for them. Okay, is it right? Is it not right? I don't know. This is not for me to judge. I'm not qualified to make those judgments. Now, I'll say this. I did read a book, and I have it in my possession right now, actually, about the morality of spying. It goes into that, dives into it deeply. And I read it a few years back. I'm going to revisit it this week. And this book is called Fair Play, and the author is James M. Olson. And he does dive into a lot of scenarios regarding espionage and the morality around that. It's a great read. So if you really want to dive into this and find out the morality of all these things, there's a lot of this does dive into it. It does way better than I could ever explain it because I'm not an expert. This gentleman is an expert in these things. They got a lot of knowledge and expertise that I don't have. I've read a lot, but this guy can definitely fill you in more about that particular area. So I found that very interesting that they looked at that. Now, one other interesting thing about it as well. So in the show, he comes back to America. And so instead of like locking him up or whatever, so what they're going to do is try to rehabilitate him, right? Now, in the States, the laws used to be, they may have changed, but generally there's not a lot of rehabilitation when it comes to these, these radicalized human beings, Americans, right? Because over the years, Americans have went overseas and, done different things against America, following the belief systems overseas. And generally when that happens, they throw the book at them, for lack of a better term. In America, we do that quite a bit. This goes not just the current administration, but this goes back years upon years. I mean, way back. I think the whole last 20 years, if I remember correctly, that's kind of what we did. Now, overseas, they have programs in places where they do what's called de-radicalization. And this is done to bring them back into the fold, bring them back to the country, to take the ideology that they were part of, it just kind of bring them back to where they're at. Because if you're from where you're at, it's like I'm from the United States of America, and they just want to bring you back to those beliefs and ideals to where you started at. This is where you started at, or wherever country you're from. And so in America, at least last I heard, this may have changed, we don't have a lot of that. But in the show, he brings it up, and Colin, who spent time overseas, is aware of that. So we're going to send this de-radicalization, program, whatever it is. In overseas, like I said, they do a lot of that. Now, I've done a lot of studying of counterterrorism, terrorism over the years, just for fun. I thought it interesting. And so this is not me saying this is coming from experts in the field who've told me these things and books I've read from people that are in the field. Now, like I said, this is the last I heard. I haven't really done a lot of studying in the last few years as much as I used to. And we may have them in the States now. I'm not entirely sure. But I just know I found it interesting that they even brought it up. A lot of the entertainment shows you watch, this is rarely brought up. I've seen lots and lots of spy shows, movies, or whatever, and rarely do they show the option of de-radicalization. So it's interesting that they bring that up in this particular episode. Now, also additionally, in the scene where they show him de-radicalizing and kind of, coming back to America, I was touched by that. So, our age, we're in the internet age, right? And in my life, I do like to explore different belief systems and ideologies. Now, I'm born and raised in the Midwest of the United States of America. You know what I mean? Baseball, football, Star Trek, Star Wars, all this nerd stuff, comic books, right? Arcades, pinball, love these things, phenomenal. This is my raising, how I came up. You ask me anything, I'm America to the core, right? But also like to explore other cultures. I'm learning other languages. I'm exploring different traditions and ideas and belief systems. And I will go anywhere and study anything, right? And sometimes when you immerse yourself in this particular other belief systems, ideas, sometimes coming back home, quotation mark, just seems a little, whatever. Now, I'm not exploring these kind of ideologies that this gentleman is, but sometimes going outside of where you normally at and looking at, you do got to get that feeling. And so when he's trying to reconnect to, being kid or whatever, I kind of resonate with that slight, just a little bit, just a tad. It made me feel a certain type of way. And I didn't even go through what this dude went through. Like, this dude went through some crazy stuff. He was gone for like 8 years in another country, taken away from his homeland, everything he knew. And he was with these humans, these people that thought differently, act differently, who didn't treat him the best, to try to shape his brain in a belief system that he wasn't raised with. So I found the show very interesting. Now I'm going to go ahead and circle back to the running theme of this particular podcast. The theme of this particular podcast has been for a long time is that there's a lot of groups of human beings all battling for supremacy, for lack of a better term. Belief systems, ideologies, how they act, what they do, belief systems, customs, all over in where I live. In my country, United States, there's a lot of that. Outside of the globe, there's just tons of groups thinking differently and acting different, right? And like I tell you guys all the time, they want your membership. Let's be real. They want to grow their base, right? They want to become larger, have more money, more power, more influence. A lot of them do. Some don't, but most do. Right? And they want you. If you're not belonging to any kind of group or organization, they want you. With the Uncle Sam picture, they want you, right? So in this particular situation, one of ours, America's overseas, and they kind of wanted to reshape his mind to join their fold. And for a moment, he might have, but when he came back, he knew where he was at. But I wanted to say this. A lot of groups want you to join whatever they're peddling, thinking, acting, right? Wherever they're at on planet Earth, digitally and physically. Now, of course, where you choose to spend your time, physically, mentally, what you do, totally up to you. But really think carefully what you're going to give your time, attention, focus, body, physical, mentally to. Is it good for you? Is it good for humanity? Is it good in general? Right? Maybe you don't. Is it going to, help you be a better human being? Are they holding you? Are they taking care of you? Are they supporting you? Are they good for the community, right? These kind of belief systems, it's going to level the whole planet. This is my personal belief. But just whatever you're doing, is this group good for you? Whatever the group is, right? Really think it through, right? Don't worry about what your mom's doing, brother's doing, friends are doing. Is this good for what you're trying to achieve, whatever it might be? And also, too, is this going to be detrimental to me short-term or long-term? The choices we make, the groups you join, have major impact on what we will do now into the future. So who you're around on a regular basis, how you think, how you act, has major impact. And when I was younger, I didn't really realize this as much as I should have. And so the choice I made just took me a little longer to get where I wanted to get to because, I was trying to figure things out as well. As someone that's older, that's 50 years old, I'm trying to tell you that, bro, take a minute, take a breath, and think through the choices you make, the groups you join, right? And just be really particular about how you give your time and attention to who and what belief systems, ideas, because this is where the power is at, right? Who you give that to. Super powerful, right? And just make sure it's going to take care of you and level you and your family up. At this podcast, I want you, your family, your community to win, to be prosperous, to have enough resources to do what you want to do, to have the basics you need to live, eat, sleep, shelter, clothing, all these things, and you'll be able to enjoy yourself and do things you want to do, to have fun and relax, right? Being on planet Earth is the easiest spend because of technology, but it's also seems to be the hardest it is. There's so much information, so many belief systems, right? So much is happening digitally. It's very fast paced. And sometimes it's hard to kind of just sit back and figure out what's going on and what should I do. So like I said, this particular community, me and the rest of the EIF community, have your back, support you, and we just want you to do very well. And so feel free to reach out, communicate, comment, engage. These podcasts are designed with the intention to have us just think a little bit better, a little bit clearer, a little bit better, choose better than we were before. And if I can get any of you guys just to make a better choice in your life a little better, I will be a happy person. Now, one last thing. When I was in school, I had a teacher that told me to think. Her main thing out of the whole class is just think. Right? Think, right? And thinking will help you make better choices, right? And I love that, Jewel. I appreciate you for saying that. School, didn't really kind of hold on to a lot of it, to be real about it, but that I did. That teacher's now helping me create this podcast because thinking is what gets this podcast done, and thinking has helped me make better choices as I proceed into the future to have a better lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle for me and my community. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this podcast. And you guys are phenomenal. I appreciate you listening, every one of you. I know a lot of you guys listen regularly. I know you are. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys share, like, engage quite a bit. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. And this podcast is going to keep going. But anyways, thanks, Joy. Appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see.
The Captain Talks.